What's up, guys, and welcome back to another video. Today I've got another little transfer news video for you guys, as everything's starting to heat up a little bit now that the Euros is over and all the players have returned back to the club from their respective loans and joined up with the squad for pre-season. So expect to see a little more movement in the outgoings department now that Tuchel's able to evaluate the full squad and make his final verdict on what to do with some of the players going into next season, whether that be them leaving on a permanent basis or for those who need another year out on loan to continue their development. We've also had probably the biggest breaking news of the window so far come out in the last 24 hours or so, with reports coming out claiming that Chelsea have submitted a 100 million euro bid for Juventus winger Federico Chiesa. So I'll be giving my opinions on that in this video, and I'm also going to be talking a little bit about the Haaland reports that have come out over the past few days. I'll give you a little update on those. So if you enjoy the video, make sure to drop a like, subscribe if you're new to stay up to date with new videos, and let's get straight into it. Now, I'll kick this one off with the big news that's come out over the past 24 hours, with Christian Falk claiming that Chelsea reportedly made a club record 100 million euros offer for Juventus and Italy star Federico Chiesa after his impressive Euros campaign. Now, Chelsea have reportedly had that opening bid of 100 million euros knocked back by Juventus, who apparently made it clear that he is untouchable for them. However, interestingly enough, he isn't even officially a Juventus player yet, I don't believe. They did sign him on a 2-year loan from Fiorentina with a 40 million euro obligation to buy, which I'm pretty sure they haven't triggered yet. So off the bat, that would just make this deal a little bit more complicated if it was to go through. We've all seen firsthand the absolute fuckery that goes with signing players who are on loan. When we signed the absolute dud that was Higuain from Juventus, I think he was on loan at AC Milan at the time, if I remember correctly, and that for sure was most definitely not worth all the fuss. Now, a move for Chiesa would be more exciting than the one for Higuain was, not that that really needs to be said, with Chiesa being touted as Italy's next golden boy. So it is understandable from Juventus' point of view why they wouldn't be willing to let him go. He's also coming off a very promising first season for them, where he got 9 goals and 9 assists in the Serie A, which is a solid return for him in his first season at the club. And he was also instrumental in their Champions League campaign, as short-lived as that was. They went out to the mighty Porto in the round of 16. But he did shine in the 8 games, grabbing 4 goals and an assist, and he carried that domestic form on into the Euros, where he initially found himself out of the starting 11, with Mancini preferring Berardi on the right-hand side, but a string of impressive displays off the bench eventually earned him that starting spot for the semis and the final, where he was probably Italy's best player on the night. The man is just rapid and he's good on the ball as well, but probably the most interesting and unique thing about his playstyle is just how direct he is. Now, they aren't similar players at all, but for reference, his directness reminds me a little bit to the way Werner plays, with him just always looking to go straight towards goal whenever he has the ball, and even when he doesn't, he's always looking to get in behind defenses, which isn't as common these days, with most of the best young wingers in the world liking the ball 2 feet, not often looking to get in behind. Jadon Sancho being a great example of that. Although he's not slow, he just isn't that old school pace monster that Chiesa is. And while I'm on the topic of Sancho, I just struggle to believe that Chelsea wouldn't pursue a move for Sancho for what, 80 million pounds, and instead would attempt to bring Chiesa in for 100 million. It doesn't really make much sense to me. Don't get me wrong, I still think Chiesa is a great player, as I said before, and as he showed in the Euros, but there just isn't really any competition between Sancho and him for me. If I were looking to bring in that elite tier young wide talent, Sancho would have been an absolute no-brainer, and it wouldn't have been that hard to convince him to join us, the champions of Europe, over Manchester United. He's 2 years younger, he's 20 million pounds cheaper, if reports are to be believed. He's English, and I think he's a better all-round player than Chiesa. We all know Chelsea's desire to sign an elite forward this summer, but I just don't think Chiesa is that player. We're already stocked enough as it is in the wide positions where Chiesa plays. We've got Ziyech, Hudson-Odoi, Havertz, Werner, who have played there, and they all have a different thing to offer in those wide positions. And we already have a player in Pulisic who has that direct playstyle that Chiesa has. So I would take these reports with a serious pinch of salt. Now, I would add as well that this isn't a nailed-on theory, but I'm always skeptical of reports like this where a German-based journalist is reporting on a proposed deal between an English and an Italian club. And Christian Falk himself has got previous as a little bit of a waffle spitter when it comes to Chelsea transfers. In the past, he's constantly reported that Hudson-Odoi was going to join Bayern. So for me, he isn't the most reliable journalist out there, especially when he's not talking about Bundesliga or Bayern transfers. He's no Fabrizio Romano, that is for sure. And I'm also just a little bit skeptical of any reports coming out of Italy at the best of times. I mean, if you just scroll through your OneFootball feed on your phone, I guarantee it's just spammed with articles about Serie A teams signing or making moves for half the Chelsea team. And how many reports have you seen over the past year or a year or two about Emerson joining Juventus, Inter Milan, Napoli, AC Milan in the past, and none of them have ever come to fruition. So I wouldn't get my hopes up too much about this transfer being completed. Not that I think we really need him anyway. I think we're already pretty stocked in that position, and he's not a guaranteed fix for our goal scoring issues. Now, I'll finish this video off by quickly discussing some of the recent news that's come out concerning Chelsea's pursuit of Erling Haaland. Now, every single day there seems to be about 70,000 contradicting reports surrounding Haaland. I think it was 2 days ago, Chelsea were reportedly readying a £150 million bid after Abramovich gave the board the green light for the transfer. And then today, it's been reported by Bundesliga journalists that Marco Rose, who's taking over the Dortmund job, was promised that Haaland wouldn't be sold this summer. However, it also was reported that Rose was promised Sancho wouldn't be leaving as well, which obviously hasn't come to fruition, having departed for Manchester United. Now, I think you can look at this one of two ways. If you even believe these reports in the first place, Dortmund might not want to piss off their new boss by going back on 2 promises when he agreed to join in February. Or you can look at it like this: if they've already sold one of their stars under his nose when the asking price was met, that being the key detail, when the asking price was met, why wouldn't they sell another one if Chelsea were to meet that asking price? Now, make of that what you will, but I would be more inclined to think along the lines of the second one. As I've said all along, if Chelsea want Haaland this summer, they're going to have to match Dortmund's asking price, and there's no way around that. We saw them do it last year with Sancho, and I reckon the same thing will happen here. If Chelsea don't meet that high valuation this summer, then they'll just have to wait a year. They will end up getting him for cheaper, as we saw with Sancho, who I think went down from roughly 110 million to 80 million, but they missed out on a whole season of him where he could have potentially made the difference. I mean, they might have won the Europa League had he been there, you never know, so that is the risk you take. And 12 months without Haaland could be the difference between us making a title push or not. And this ties nicely into the report that I touched on before regarding Chelsea apparently readying £150 million through the sales of Hakim Ziyech, Tammy Abraham, and Callum Hudson-Odoi. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I'm getting like properly sick of these Chelsea are willing to let Hudson-Odoi go rumors. I genuinely don't know how people can continue to write this stuff when so many reputable sources around the club have come out and said that Tuchel, the club, and the player have zero interest in leaving this summer. And I think it's pretty much the same with Ziyech as well. If he has another underwhelming year at the club, I could potentially see us looking to cash in on him. But he hasn't even been that bad this year to the point where you'd be looking to recuperate the money we spent on him just 12 months ago. A turbulent 12 months that it has been as well. It's also not like we haven't seen flashes of his talent. He still scored some important goals for us, even in a down year for him at Chelsea. So if we are readying this £150 million, then we aren't going to do it by selling these players. If we really wanted to sign Haaland that badly this summer, then we could afford it without even needing to sell anyone. The Champions League prize money alone would cover 2/3 of the transfer fee, and this saga isn't going to be a question of if Chelsea can afford Haaland, but if they want to outlay such a large fee on him this summer when he's available in 12 months for half the price. And that's the big decision that Chelsea need to make. Whether they think they can get in early like they did with Havertz last year, or whether they can convince him with all the added interest from around Europe. If it were up to me, I would definitely pay the 150. He's a once-in-a-generation talent, and in a sport where there's no guarantees, he's the closest thing to a guaranteed goal scorer that we're going to get. Alright, that's all I've got for you guys in today's little transfer update video. There's still a few other stories floating around that I might catch up on in the coming few days. There's a few reports coming out surrounding Zuma's future. But for the time being, let me know what your thoughts are on the Chiesa deal down below. Would you look to bring him in even if it wasn't for that €100 million that's being reported? And let me know if you reckon we should do everything we can to sign Haaland this window, or if we should back ourselves to convince him next season. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to drop a like. That'd do me a fat solid. And if you're new around here, subscribe to stay up to date with new videos. I post a new video every 2 or 3 days. Cheers for watching.